see the Aurelia. Now, that's interesting. Does that tell you that maybe they're going to look at Nazir this game?
I mean, I think it's more that just Soren's very comfortable on it. I like this Sivir pickup by the Copenhagen Wolves. They led it through to the Giants yesterday. Other options that they would have had available. We've seen Freeze play a multitude of champions just in general. Has played a lot of Caitlyn along the side. But I like this one. It now leaves Giants with the option of pick Corki or go for something very different on Adri. We know he's played the Jinx before.
You do indeed. Now, also the Alistar is left up, and you have to think Giants may look to take that away from the Wolves so they do not give the Sivir Alistar lane away entirely. However, it's not something that Godford's been particularly comfortable looking on, but you still got to do it, and there you go.
Yeah, and the Ryze getting through here is actually a fairly big factor. We still do have a couple of other champions. Rumble not banned in this one either for the top lane, but
or certainly...
Shen. No, Shen is available as well. I wonder whether we'll see Lenny go towards one pick we have started to see a lot more against the Ryze is the Dr. Mundo. We actually saw that earlier over in LCK, saw it in Challenger earlier this week as well. It's an option. I mean, it's just a damage soak when it comes to Ryze's damage output until you get to the late game. It depends though on what Giants actually pick for the damage threats later into this game. But Wolves right now, they have their pick of junglers. They now can look for a support to go against the Alistar. See exactly what the Copenhagen Wolves look to pick up here.
May be that they go ahead and pick up a quick jungler indeed. However, Cass eyeballing the Thresh pick for himself along with the Sivir, and there will be the lock-in of the Shen. Along with that Thresh, we now know where that should be going, Lenny. Well, we'll see if he has any more time for shenanigans this game. Maybe it won't come to that.
Maybe it won't come to that. Still wondering what Soren's going to look for in that middle lane as well. Now that the Aurelia is gone, he, as I said, blind picked it yesterday and tried to run a 1-3-1 with the team. I wonder what Soren's kind of next most comfortable champion in that mid lane is. Very weird one yesterday when that got locked in when it comes to this mid lane matchup. I think actually Pepinero is going to be very comfortable with a lot of what Soren could look to pick up. Haven't seen too much different out of Peppy in the last couple of weeks. Been playing a lot of that Ezreal.
That Runeglaive Ezreal has really been the big thing for him. The summoners don't indicate it right now, but there's plenty of time to change. For Soren, though, for his pickup, it really has been for him this split. The few times they've really found success outside of yesterday was on that Azir. And you got to think he may go back to it for a comfortable level, but is it really going to fit into the Sivir style composition that they're looking to build here in? As the Gragas comes out for Frederick, no-brainer there.
Well, I mean, Civ is just very versatile when it comes to things. There's not a lot that doesn't particularly fit in with a Civ. So, I mean, as we go through the rest of these last two picks for the Copenhagen Wolves, that'll start to really piece itself together. But the Gragas being picked up, Nidalee is available for Shook. We have seen that from him. We also saw Elise in last week's game.
He likes Rengar too.
We do. I'm not such a fan of the Rengar, but Kikis played it in Challenger earlier this week. So this, I think, now for the Wolves, it's a comfort pick. We've seen Elise's win rate go up just in ranked play. And we've seen what the Copenhagen Wolves can do with this Elise when it was going up against H2K. You saw the stun lock, and remember, Je Suis Cass played Thresh in that game as well. So this combination worked well for them against H2K, and certainly you may expect the Giants to not quite put up the same fight as H2K. Copenhagen Wolves did well in that game.
Well, they've got themselves the makings of a catch composition if they can pull it off. Along with the Victor, too. A lot of damage being able to come out of Soren in that mid lane. What do the Giants finish up their composition with? Will they swap it up with the AD carry and mid take that Varus, try to kite back? They've already got some disengage tools between the Cow and the Fat Man.
They do, but Varus is fairly low mobility when it comes to it. Obviously, when you charge up that piercing arrow, you do have to kind of put yourself out there. So Pepinero, if he suffers the same fate as Ryu when Ryu was playing the Victor, this may be a tough matchup in that middle lane for him. That is where we're really going to have to look at the focus. Look at when Je Suis Cass looks to roam, but certainly Pepinero is not doing all that badly on the Varus for himself. His stats overall 14, 3, and 17.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it's a Pepinero special at this point. This guy has really been a large chunk of his team's damage output. Not to say that no one else is stepping up, but they do seem to live and die by him.
They do. Well, yeah.
More or less. There's a few...
certainly when they're doing well, Pepinero is shining, but I think a lot of when they're not doing so well is a couple of the other members. The game we saw from Adrian is Jinx previously. Just he ended up falling behind. But when it comes to... You know, this setup for this game, there couldn't be much more on the line, especially for the Copenhagen Wolves at this point. This is a must-win for them. And even if they win it, it's still not secure.
They still need some help. It looked like a tall order coming into this week. They needed to win 2, SK needed to lose 2. However, halfway there, we'll see if it can continue today. Now, before we get started and get onto the Rift, don't forget to keep sending us your predictions and prophecies. Tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag CWWin if you think they're going to avoid automatic relegation, or hashtag GIA win if you think they're going to move up in the playoff race. For now, though, we're about to kick off day number 2. This is the final day of regular summer games here in Europe, so get ready because we are about to go onto the Rift.
And as we load into this one, Pyra, this is such an important super sudden death style game at this point. As, I mean, not even Giants are safe from this one. They're stuck with this big pack of people, currently tied for 5th with their record. The only real safe spots in our standings are above 4th and 9th and 10th. Yep. Everything between that. 2 teams are going to playoffs, 1 team's staying just in the LCS, and 1 team's going to relegation.
So what Crepo says, the magic number is 7-11. You don't want to be in that situation if you are any of these teams. Giants, they looked so good in the start of the split, but the word we've been really tossing around is I would say stagnation. It's just they've not seemed to develop past a certain point, and teams have been starting to figure that out. Now, will that be enough for the Wolves here, who are, you know, playing with their backs against the wall, to be able to take them out? Well, clearly they still have some bite in them. We saw them yesterday.
They've looked a lot more comfortable ever since their backs have been up against the wall. So
I mean, under pressure, they seem to perform. Historically, that's a Copenhagen Wolves thing.
It seems to be, but they've actually been quite controlled at the same time, which is the interesting thing. They haven't just been loose and free on the game when it comes to just going for whatever fight they want. So the Wolves still have their fate partly in their hands, but they have once again given over quite a lot of strong picks.
Yeah.
To their opponents. This is now the 2nd or 3rd game in a row that they've done this. Ryze has just consistently been banned. 95% combined ban rate with Rumble coming into week 9. The Varus, the Alistair as well. Just all of these picks we've seen from every single team here in Europe for the last few weeks. And Copenhagen Wolves feel confident just to give them over.
They certainly do. Let's see if it bites them in the behind this time. Remember, back in week 1, way long ago, Giants did pick up that big win, but it was actually not quite as lopsided as you might expect, considering how well the Giants were performing early on in the split and what became of the Wolves after that. So maybe the magic will still be here. Maybe they will. But as the junglers and the top laners are going around the jungle together with themselves, looks like we do have the duo lanes on opposite sides of the map for now. Notice how Lenny is still level 1 after the red buff as well. One of the things we've seen is top lane is being given a lot more experience to begin lane swaps so that they get through the early portion of the game a lot more comfortable. Lenny didn't actually hit level 2 quite off the red buff, so he was a little far behind, but Werlib has only hit level 2 just now himself, so Jungler's taking most of the experience. Yeah, see if they can make an early on impact in their team, what Shook can do. Give it the proper birth. Meanwhile, Werlib comes in, looks for Soren, immediately going to pop both of his summoners to get out as Godfrey was getting dangerously close. Very early effort by Giants on the Copenhagen Wolves mid laner.
Flash for flash and a lot of emphasis
and a
mid lane.
Got a barrel down. Not going to be enough damage though. He's going to munch himself up a biscuit and just take a hail of arrows to the back. He will have to take a quick trip back to base, however. But in the meantime, take a look at his opposite number in that mid lane. Pepinero, you were talking about his stats earlier. This is a guy that makes this champion look good. More than everybody else.
He certainly seems to. One thing about that play there with Giants putting so many people mid lane is they actually now will be a little bit later to lane when it comes to their experience and how it is divided between their players. Werlib now obviously doesn't have his flash, so can't go to the top lane. He is under far too much pressure. And this is something we don't actually see at all with lane swaps. The junglers have kind of just gone into the jungle at this point. Shook's now topside and is just kind of not pressuring the top lane. Nobody is there, and Sivir is able to just push on her own with Lenny at this point with Shen. So this is very non-standard of what we see these days. Normally I'll see 3 people pushing a lane. Copenhagen Wolves are trying to do it with 2.
Let's see if they can manage it. Meanwhile, Giants taking the more traditional route themselves. They're actually going to leave Lenny to finish this tower off, get himself some more of that gold. And the Sivir will back away. Looks like we may see the lanes reset after the early tower takes. A couple minions denied, and there we go.
And this is an adaptation on what is standard, is that it's the top laner that sits up in that lane. As the wave dies to the tower, you now give the top laner the experience here so that he's not stranded out on an island. Whereas Wirlip, at this point, he is having it the same down at the bottom now that Giants have finally pushed, but it is a little bit slower here. The bot lane from Copenhagen Wolves won't get there in time, and it ends up in roughly the same situation that you would expect from a normal play, but a little bit more focus on mid lane with Giants putting 4 people there.
I think that's fairly merited, though, when you look at what Soren can do when he gets in a comfortable situation. They spent so many resources, not to be able to take him down, but without both of his summoners for a little while, they have a window of opportunity with which to act, and it might be on Shook to see if he's going to show up to the rescue. For now, he's on counter jungle duty.
It also gives Pepinero a lot more freedom in this mid lane now. You can see he has got a CS lead, hasn't had to back until now, just goes back to get his tier, but look at this triple tier setup from the Giants. Shook, however, needs a lot of damage from Frederick.
There is that cocoon, might have saved his life for now, but Frederick is looking to squish the spider. Will be able to skitter away fast enough, but he will not be coming to the rescue of his mid laner anytime soon.
No, but at that point, Pepinero wasn't there, so Giants couldn't really fully commit to that one. They knew that Soren could have come across at the same time. The triple tier setup in action for Giants, that is going to give them a real big power dip for a little while here against the Wolves, but Giants are reacting to it fairly well. They're looking for the towers rather than looking for fights. It doesn't matter if they're in a power dip as long as they have the presence on the map to just avoid where the Wolves are stacking themselves.
Right. Give yourself an open map and you can move around quite freely. However, the Wolves will be able to defend this turret for now and intercept the wave that's coming in. Lenny getting all the CS there, a little bit of shared experience. And Teleport actually coming in for Ryze down on the bottom side to counter push against Freeze. He'll be able to pick himself up some solo experience. But yeah, Giants really playing for this late game with the triple tiers.
It's always a little bit deadly, though, to give Freeze a lot of room to farm in that bottom lane. He always seems to be up against his lane opponents when it comes to the CS. And we know that Freeze is one of the more mechanically strong AD carries, or at least when you speak to a lot of pros, they will tell you that Freeze is fairly underrated when it comes to AD carries. And you can see he has got a lead as well. So I wonder whether the Giants have a plan for how they're going to deal with Freeze as we get later on into this game. Because right now, Ryze has got a little bit of farm, but he's going to need a lot of time to actually be able to get even remotely start becoming tanky. He's going to have a lot of damage when he starts getting 2, 3, 4 items. But apart from that, the Giants are going to have this real big disparity when it comes to their actual damage output.
I think you make a really interesting point about what are the Giants going to do with Freeze right now, because while he's sort of a linchpin of their chase and catch somebody strategy that they should be able to employ throughout most stages of this game, he's not necessarily an easy target to catch. He's got the spell shield. On the hunt, he'll be able to get away a lot. He's got a Thresh there to be able to get him out of danger, and a Shen. So he's well protected, and on top of it, he's not the one who's going to be dishing out the most damage in all likeliness. That's what you're going to look at Victor to. So Giants kind of have their plate full in this one.
They do, and one of the other areas they're going to have a little bit of trouble is the amount of wave clear coming from the Wolves. Between Victor, between Sivir, they should be fairly comfortable. Then it's all on the Giants for how much poke do they land. How many Ezreal Qs, how many piercing arrows from the Varus actually hit the carries of the Copenhagen Wolves? Because it's at that point that Wolves can't sit behind a tower. And if Giants can set themselves up, then they can crack the tower line, but Wolves will be able to just sit in front of the minions and just clear them out.
Well, that's definitely true, but Giants are not picking these carry champions just because they necessarily needed to. You look at their past performances, Audrey actually hasn't lost a game when he's played this Ezreal and carry, and Pepinero's, we've pretty much talked about a couple times, looks like a god on this. Now Wirlip is going to get caught on a line. Cass is going to zoom him in there, and there's a Chaos Storm right on him. Will it follow him in? Not for now. The Chains of Corruption might just be enough to keep him alive, and Wirlip wipe the sweat off his brow because he's safe for now.
Oh, Wirlip getting caught by a stray hook. We've seen that Cass's Thresh is very effective. The game against H2K, he ended up going 0-2 and 18, I believe, at least in last week's games when playing Thresh. So we know that this is a really big pick for the Copenhagen Wolves. And to be honest, down the line, a lot of these picks are the standout picks for the Wolves as well. We saw what Lenny can do on Shen yesterday when given that Baron buff and a lot of time and a teleport to a tower that didn't quite work out for Steve, but certainly we know the Lenny's comfortable on it. He has got himself a CS lead right now, but this tower is going down.
Yeah, it will be a little while for that Rise to try and catch up, but Audrey, meanwhile, is on the top, clear duty himself. Yeah, we talked about how the Wolves gave away some strong picks to Giants, but, you know, likewise, it's all about those comfort picks for the Wolves themselves, and they weren't able to secure up what they needed. So tower goes down. Giants have a lead of 2-1 on that as we approach the 10-minute mark in this game. The gold lead is really the only difference there. Still no first blood, but man, it was close with Whirling.
It was very, very close. Another tick of Ignite may have done it. But one thing I want to kind of look at with regards to Audrey is he does favor the Iceborne Gauntlet build, especially when Giants play poke. This is the kind of composition they actually ran back in weeks 2 and 3, where they ran Iceborne Gauntlet Ezreal. They actually ran it with a Cogmore mostly. You get the Iceborne Gauntlet proc to slow the target, and then you just land heavy amounts of poke on top of it. And that's exactly what Giants are looking for with this kind of composition. And then they've rounded it out with a lot of magic damage coming from the top side of the map with that Rise. So it's a good combination for them if they can get it to work. And I feel like it's a little bit more simple than what they were trying to do with Jax yesterday.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of thing Giants definitely need to do. We've talked about how they still have, while they've looked overall better in decision-making, they still have these moments of indecisiveness, these moments of chaos that they just don't seem to control quite so well. And trying to execute something a little bit easier may be the key to getting yourself that 8th win on the board and trying to put yourself head and shoulders above the other team still tied to this playoff position.
Yeah, I mean, poke itself as a strategy is not particularly simple to pull off. When it comes to the coordination required, you know, if you don't land the poke, if you don't have the right setup on your side waves, you actually are kind of poking for no real gain. So it's one of those weird things that the Giants seem to be fairly comfortable with, but we've seen them be put off their game in these last couple of weeks. Will they have the composure to pull it through today?
Looking for Frederick. He's taking a lot of damage. Spited down. First blood. Now the Dragon. True Shot Barrage is coming in. It will be secured thanks to Godfred's efforts. Freeze, though, is on the hunt. An arrow, Stray, goes through. Freeze jumping in, Chains of Corruption, but they've caught Godfred. Flays him back in. Shook gets another one for himself. The Spider picks up 2 just like that.
At that point, Giants, they committed to this Dragon, and Godfred standing far too close to the back edge of the pit. What he was waiting for was Shook trying to come over. The thing is, if Shook ever was going to come over, he was going to repel. So at that point, you've got to then headbutt and pulverize, but Audrey is in a bit of trouble himself.
Yeah, Cass comes around the side. There is the Arcane Shift and a hook. Get back over here! Cass is knocked into the tower, and they equalize that, but it's some support for AD carry. As Frederick chases Shook and Freeze back away.
You can see the difference in the confidence from Cass when he's playing Thresh to when we've seen him on other champions. He just waits for the hook. He knows he's stood in just in between a minion line, wait for it, walk out. Audrey had nothing to get away, and it's an easy hook for him. Did lose his life for it, but certainly he's 0-1-3 right now, so certainly worth.
Cass just definitely looks like on another level with this champion, particularly if it does keep getting given to him. I mean, this is the last game of the regular split for them. Maybe they're last in the LCS if they can't pull out a win here. But clearly, they've definitely hit something that works for them this game. Will it be enough?
Well, even this game won't quite be enough for the Wolves themselves.
Definitely some help still.
They still rely on that SK game later, which is, to be honest, none of the results today, unless Wolves lose, are going to be straight up determined, because there are 4 teams all relying on each other to lose. Yeah, it's a very odd situation.
Mutually assured destruction and playoff berth. It's Europe. Everything's crazy. You know how it goes. So Giants are going to gang up on the crab, take a bite out of that one, and secure themselves a little bit of vision. We hadn't touched on the vision as much this game, but it's been very heavily towards the bottom side for the Wolves, and that's mostly Koss just roaming between the mid and the bottom, making sure that no one can really easily get in there. Definitely allowed them to set up for the counter move on the Dragon, but Giants, for their part, are really focusing a little bit more on the top side. I'm not really sure what for. It's still some time before the Baron's going to be even option.
Audrey thinks he's safe. This is the same play again. Oh, teleport even coming through from Lenny.
And one also for Warlib. True Shot Barrage. Koss still gets the hook, though, and freezes there. Audrey just melts on the spot, but Shook is going to have to juggle his tower aggro. He does. He goes up, but he's taken down by Warlib. Meanwhile, the Wolves continue to tank this. Koss avoids one more shot on the tower, but in comes the cow. Godfred will try to push them back, but he can't save Warlib's life. Godfred now under the tower. He thinks he's safe. Frederick, another hook, but the Wolves don't want to take this one. Not till Soren arrives. And Pepinero is right behind him. Flashes, but he can't get the arrow.
They still have to respect Pepe's damage, though. Cleanse straight out from Soren.
Oh, that's a big
The Wolves are backing away because they are too low. That one fully charged Q probably would have picked off Cuss or Freeze at that point. Copenhagen Wolves go to the play for the second time here, looking for the bottom lane. They get it on Adri, and they're trying to put this composition while it doesn't have the power, while they're trying to stack the tiers. The Copenhagen Wolves are trying to fight. The problem is that time they didn't really respect just how many people from the Giants could react from that one, and Giants kind of make them pay.
That's true. However, you could think of it as a discount rate because they still came out ahead in that one just by the numbers. It gives them a gold lead, especially with that tower a little bit more further along, about 2.2 thousand gold, 15 minutes on the clock. Yeah, they're down a dragon, but it's even in towers now because of that. Giants still have some time to ramp up, and this is exactly what the Wolves need to be doing. At least trying for it.
Yeah, I mean, can't fault the Wolves from what they're doing, and it's been effective thus far in this game. Remember, though, in yesterday's games, we were in almost the exact same situation at this point against Roccat. The one thing that really slowed the Wolves down was the fact that the Wolves never pressured for deep vision. They never got the deep wards to utilize the Shen properly. And if they don't do that again here against the Giants, then they will give too much vision control over to a team that want to poke you from a distance. And if you can't engage on them and you can't split push safely, then there's no real way for the Wolves to actually pressure for a win here.
Well, they definitely have to make sure they don't let that happen, as some of their vision has expired in this bottom side, but the Dragon's still about a minute and a half away before they look to that. They still don't want to allow Giants to see them coming. Koss is moving around the side here. He's just placing a couple more down, and there's Warlib and Godfred down in the bottom, so still some sustainability with the Gragas coming in as well.
And you can see how important the vision control is for the Giants, but it's not enough to stop Warlib from getting caught here.
Yeah, gets caught on the line. Godfred tries to push him back. A big barrel comes out, but Freeze is still able to take him down. In comes the True Shot Barrage, but it rings false. Now, a flash from the cow, avoiding Joesukas's big flay. Doesn't quite amount to too much there. However, Giants, or rather Copenhagen Wolves, still able to pick off a quick one. Even though the wave has gone behind them, Pepinero looking to try and intercept around the side.
The same play for a third time, basically, from the Copenhagen Wolves at this point. Oh, if at first you do succeed, keep trying because it's working, is the other side of that saying. And with Dragon coming up as well, you know, this is a good start for the Wolves. They let the first Dragon go over to the Giants, but did make them pay for it by getting that pick on to Godfred at that point. So if the Wolves can pick this one up, they won't be too unhappy about the first one going over.
Utilizing Soren to clear away the wave and top away from Audrey while Lenny trades his place in the middle. However, a couple of staggered backs here. The Wolves looking to not give up this dragon position that they very quickly earned here. It's coming up in less than 5 seconds. Giants will have to move fast if they want to take this one again, but they may not be interested. Also, Audrey sitting on a fountain right now, possibly waiting for an item there.
Yeah, Giants haven't grouped for it. As you said, Audrey is not there. He will have two-shot barrage available, so it will have to be a Hail Mary from across the map.
Don't think it's
he is going to go for it.
Nope,
it's too late. That is not going to do the work. But, you know, the Giants, I was going to say they've had so much of a focus on vision, but they've not read the same play coming from the Copenhagen Wolves. They had pretty much the entirety of the lower jungle littered with wards. They've even got wards on top of the sight stones they've got in their inventory. If you look at Frederick, he's been sat on 2 wards for a very long time. They just have not been able to see Copenhagen Wolves coming at the right time in the right place, even though they have so many wards, and the Wolves will take that every day. The Wolves have even replaced it now in the top side of the jungle with wards of their own. They are starting to get cleared out by the Giants, but certainly Giants are going to heavily rely on not allowing Wolves to make those same plays around the inner towers.
And this is definitely a big boon for Copenhagen Wolves at the moment, just because you mentioned it yourself earlier. They don't want to give Giants the vision around the mid part and in their own jungle to be able to poke them out and push them back by proactively getting deeper and deeper into the jungle of Giants, by not allowing them to push forward. They not only gain vision and control of the river, but they don't allow Giants to get in a situation where they can easily poke them. They have to blind into it.
Right, and in this mid lane as well, this is the same problem Copenhagen Wolves had yesterday, is this mid tower still being up, and it's still incredibly healthy. That without a big pick from the Wolves here, from Shook or from Cuss, it's going to be difficult to get themselves actually past that mid tower. However, one thing that is different from yesterday is Shook's impact in the early game. Yesterday, he did almost nothing. Power farmed on that Nidalee until it was very late in the game before those spears really started hitting. However, this game, 2-1-4 for the 20-minute mark, could not be more different.
Yeah, and sidewave pressure also working out well for them. Whirlib might have his teleport up these forces right now, push away the wave in the bottom side, while Lenny up in the top is going to be joined by Freeze and Shook. True Shot Barrage comes through, a couple more minions survive, so they will get some power in the second tier, but Frederick and Godford are here. There is a quick cocoon, and the Copenhagen Wolves will back off and look to try again later.
Look at the top side though, they don't have vision established ahead of this play, at least deeper. You can see that was a fresh ward that has just been placed by the Wolves. They can't see Peppy coming here.
Fortunately, he's able to get everything out thanks to a lantern and a very quick tap of the cleanse button. Freeze, meanwhile, he's going to push on top, but this is far from safe. Fortunately, he's Sivir. He's got an R button.
However, now that they see Peppy in the mid lane, all the way down in the bottom lane is Whirlib as well. It is a more safe turret to get. No real place to teleport to for Whirlib either. So that is pretty much daylight robbery for the Copenhagen Wolves. As soon as Whirlib had showed himself, it just makes it a much easier play.
You know what they say, Stress, do unto others. And Pepinero does just that, taking down the turret in the mid, but it is, of course, a poor trade. A very low health mid-tier, or mid-turret in the first tier for the second. So Wolves will be happy with that, but they still need to take down that mid. It has been a pain for them 2 games in a row now.
And that's where it's a very unique dynamic with regards to the value of the turrets traded. Because now that mid tower is down for the Wolves, the mid lane, while the enemy tower is still up, becomes a more treacherous area around the river bushes, around everything that is the entrances to mid lane. Because now you have to assume that they have more control than you do, and you've almost neutralized the ability to push in one lane on the top side of the map without the deep wards. Now your real only areas that you can go is toward the shallow entrances of the bottom side and like try an edge in bottom side. If Lenny decides to push very far up without seeing where the Giants are, he can get picked off incredibly easily.
Yeah. That is definitely a dangerous thing, but for Giants, you know, they've been in a little bit of danger themselves. Some quick pickoffs for the Copenhagen Wolves have really enabled them to do what they've been doing this game, and, you know, it does seem a matter of time. It's always a ticking time bomb in these tier compositions. Well, they've got 3 of them. They're getting close to stacking up, especially if you take a look down at Audrey. He's about 15 stacks away from that. Manamune, or Muramana himself, the one in the middle for Pepinero is a little bit further behind, and then of course it's going to be a bit more time for Whirlib, but you know, it's all just a timer on the clock for these Giants as they try to stem the tide of the Wolves. Mid-turret will be safe in just a moment because the wave is going down, but they did take a big bite out of it.
Good damage down onto that mid tower. Kind of rinse and repeat here for the Wolves. Dragon not due up for a minute, so they have to kind of protect their wards here, especially the couple of pink wards they have splattered around. 2 in the top side, not really doing too much right now when your Shen's pushed all the way up. Those wards are actually not giving you too much vision, so I wonder if they'll decide to swap them around. The only other pink ward they have is Lenny's, and he's top side. It is in his inventory, so the Wolves can't fight too hard over vision control here because the Giants just have too much position, and you can see the Wolves had to back down and out through the river on the bottom side.
They're going to just try to keep pressuring these side waves, though. They know that Lenny can deal with Whirlib for at least a little bit longer, and they know that they can draw Giants away from this Dragon Pit if they themselves push up for just a moment. It's still going to be a tough fight over this Drake. Both teams definitely want it. They're sitting on a single one apiece, and obviously you always want a Dragon, but for Giants to get themselves to late game, you absolutely want to try to get as close to Aspect as you can, and the Wolves want to be able to deny that.
They want to deny that, but one thing that they can't deny from the Giants anymore is they are about to hit 3 fully stacked tier items. 2 have already been stacked. Peppy's just transformed on his way back from the base. Whirlib is just under 700. He will keep charging that up as he walks. So there is a big spike coming from the Giants should they choose to fight. Tower's going to go down, but if Giants can find an engage here, this might not be a good plan for the Wolves.
Big barrel knocks Soren and he's going to immediately flash it. However, they've still got the potential flank from Werlib on the back. Oh, he's not going to use it. In comes the stand united. Shook's going down as Werlib was able to find him. And just like that, it's going to be a 5v4. But battered and bruised, the Giants are not going to push all the way down to that next turret. Will they, however, secure the Dragon? We'll have to see. They're going to set up the vision.
Well, it's Shook that fell in that fight, so the Copenhagen Wolves do not have Smite available. This should be a fairly easy one for the Giants to take for their second of the game. Soren, I thought he might have looked for the laser there. It was actually Ezreal that picked that one up. Could have actually got it with the laser if it had popped it over the wall, but obviously he didn't know that that would have been the case. Giants kind of with a...
Sometimes you got to go for it. That's, they didn't take it. Giants get themselves a Dragon. They group up towards this Baron and look to potentially bait this one out. Crab should go down there. Is going to be the Scrying Orb to spot the Giants at their game. Free's going to try to push out in the middle. There is a wave pushing on top. That's something that Giants are going to have to absolutely deal with soon enough. However, it will be easy pickings if they manage to secure someone here. Godford is pulled in on a line. The Shen is stunned in the Rune Prison. Here comes the true shot. Jesui Kaz, he's going down. Soren will be the one who doesn't pick him up. It's actually going to go over to Audrey. Frederick is the one who falls to Soren. Got myself a little mixed up on who was on which team there. 1 for 1, all said and done.
Certainly at that fight, 1-for-1 jungler for support means obviously the Giants can't really look to take too much more from that. And as you alluded to, they do have to send Werlib up to the top lane to clear that one out, the big stack in front. But I mean, Copenhagen Wolves are kind of running out of options that aren't just clear the waves at this point. Because of the way they've set themselves up, they need to go as a pack and look to ward deeper. I kind of feel like I've said that about 1,000,000 times over today's game and yesterday's.
So true.
But the problem with today's game for them is Giants have so many different ways of checking where the Copenhagen Wolves are right now. Between Ezreal and Varus, who just queue into each bush. And if there's anybody there from the Wolves, Giants should in theory not get picked off. And with the Wolves running a pick-style composition, it's so difficult for them to actually set up and engage here without a cocoon or a hook landing.
Well, and that and the fact that they can't even really get close without danger at this point. You see those constant arrows from Pepinero just letting them fly. And Soren, Freeze, Shook, Lenny, Kaz, none of them are safe at this point. So, Kaz will grab a hook on to Frederick, but it's really just a feint there. There's no one else to follow up with him at the moment. And they can afford to get into this jungle of the Wolves now. The Tides, you can see this vision really playing out. Giants are starting to turn it around just because they have the stronger scaling composition.
They do, and the stronger scalers, however, are not with the team, or weren't when that hook did land. So if Wolves had have had that information, they obviously would have pulled the trigger, but they did not. Now Shen will have to go up the top lane for Lenny and clear that one out. Again, this game has been neutralized. So much pace has been neutralized since that top tower fell. That the Copenhagen Wolves just have kind of sat on this moderate lead and have done nothing with it. Very similar to yesterday's games against Roccat. They can't check into these areas reliably at all because of just how much damage output the Giants have right now. If Pepinero lands an ultimate onto somebody, they will instantly get blown up. The same was if Alistair knocks anybody up or if Gragas catches them.
Go ahead and start up this Baron. They're going to try to bait Copenhagen Wolves into a fight they don't want to take. They peel away. Godford takes a lot of damage from the Baron, actually. Hook does not connect. It's not quite close enough. Pepinero still letting the arrows fly. Baron's going to reset himself. But the Wolves have stopped it just by showing face. Godford's a little bit low for this one. However, he can maybe do a little bit of extra damage. Freeze takes some poke. So does Shook. Laser not going to hit. Giants can just keep doing this over and over again.
And now they can just push for mid. There's really not a lot that the Wolves can do about this. They can't sit behind a turret if they're going to take poke like that all day. And it's an unfortunate situation for the Wolves to be in. The only thing they can look for here is a potential flank from behind. If they can get a teleport from Lenny, they could look to engage, and here they go!
They look for Audrey, however, he's going to be able to get out in time. Frederick gets the smite down on Shook as they turn towards the middle. Godford a little low, the Chains of Corruption not going to land, and the Chaos Storm is weaving its way through, but Giants are already out of there, and they may be ticking low, but they've still escaped without a single death. Shook is the one who has to go back to base himself. The Copenhagen Wolves, what are they looking to do here? Will they try to bait the Giants onto this Baron? It doesn't look like it for now. They're just setting up a vision, or is it?
This is risky.
We've seen this before, Wolves.
This is incredibly risky. Shook's not even with them. There is no way of them securing this. They don't have the Callista they had yesterday. And
even then,
the Wolves know that they have to back away. At this point, what they should be doing is just playing for vision control. They just used the teleport from Lenny, and Whirlid just used his. If he shows in his bottom lane, Wolves actually might have the timing to do this. The Giants are not checking this. They have enough to check, and they have not really committed anything to hoping they don't.
Oh,
that's.
I don't even think they needed it. He wasn't going to check it.
That is a Baron that
should not have been free.
It shouldn't have been free. Okay, so the Giants are sitting on low mana, which means they don't really want to take a prolonged engagement. But right now, Giants have so much damage that the Copenhagen Wolves don't have a big enough lead to get that Baron without getting poked down. It's a play that the Copenhagen Wolves went for. They're certainly up against the wall here, but I mean, it worked out for them at this point.
Yeah, it does seem really questionable by Giants that once they thought they'd scared the Wolves away, they walked away and didn't even bother to reestablish the vision control. As a result, Wolves were able to pick it up. They buy themselves 3 minutes of time to really reassert their lead. Remember, they've still been up in the gold. Doesn't mean as much when you're facing off against this poke composition that you can't easily check into, but now they have some pushing power. Now they might be able to play with some more confidence, and if they can get 1 or 2 picks, they can turn into something more.
Could turn into something more, but one thing that is going to turn into number 3 at this point, if Giants get the setup for themselves, would be this dragon. But all of the Wolves are down here, and I don't think Giants, after seeing them not contend for the Baron, if Copenhagen Wolves push up and take poke here, then obviously Giants can look to take this one. But
pop a little bit, but
Freeze wants to go.
They look for Audrey right now. He takes a lot of damage, but Frederick will reset everything with the explosive cast. Dragon's been procced here. It is by Giants Gaming, who are looking to try and sneak it away. Soren, dangerously low. He's got his flash and cleanse, but does he dare to go back in? Lenny's the only one getting anywhere near this. It might just be Giants Dragon. And Copenhagen Wolves have to do something with this Baron while it's still hot.
Well, there is the Dragon for Giants. And as you said, they have to do something with this Baron. Otherwise, they've kind of just picked it up for not a lot, and they haven't focused on anything. And they're not running the 1-3-1 setup that they were yesterday. They are running just a hybrid of kind of like a pick and then split push with Shen setup. And they haven't really been able to get Shen out into one of the side lanes. They haven't done it for about 10 to 15 minutes at all, ever since Lenny actually got the top tower with the rest of the team. Unless Lenny can pull some kind of Baron buffed up, backdoor again.
I mean, we've got some towers to blow through before that becomes a possibility. And Giants, you know they were watching yesterday. Yep. You know they were taking notes. And they know what Lenny is capable of, but it's a lot more than just picking a Shen and hoping for the best at this point. The Wolves still penned in, and when they have the Baron buff, you know this is a dire situation. Yeah, they've got a wave on the bottom side, but so what? There's one in the top pushing for Giants. They've just finally secured that mid lane. They can get themselves out. Yeah, Sivir's got on the hunt. That's okay. We've got ourselves a righteous glory, or rather a talisman of ascension to do exactly the same thing.
No real hard engages punishing the Wolves so much right now. I mean, okay, that's just 2 arrows. Peppy has just pushed Cass away.
Might want to go back, Cass.
And the fact that Cass is part of the engage that's coming out from the Wolves, it's him or a Cocoon that has to land to really get the Wolves into a fight. And the Wolves have done so well at getting themselves the advantage in this game. They are still ahead. That is something that we shouldn't lose focus on, is with the gold, the Wolves got themselves the lead early on, but the Giants have just been able to hold them at a manageable lead and are now turning the pressure up with the poke.
Well, there is another tool that the Wolves do have. We talked about the hooks, we talked about the cocoons, but Lenny, I mean, there's that Shen flash taunt, but we haven't seen it from him this game. He's really been almost more of an insurance policy for the Wolves, not a proactive member, and that's, you're not fully utilizing the tools in your kit if you can't land one of those 30 minutes into the game.
I think the difficulty comes from Lenny is only ever going to get one of those on a flank. They have to flank.
But he's not doing it.
Well,
he's
they
not
got one fight.
Oh, that's true, they got one.
But the problem there is you're now running into a Varus with your carries from the front side, where that is where Varus wants to sit. Varus wants you to come at him because then it's a perfectly easy ultimate to just ult you in the face, and you're walking forward into it. So unless Freeze spell shields it or something, Peppy pretty much is in a comfortable situation. If Lenny does land the taunt from the backline, that is exactly the fight that the Wolves want. From there, though, it's completely reliant on Soren and Freeze to be in position to tidy up the fight at the end. But the Wolves, Lightning struck once with that mid lane play. I wonder whether the Giants will be a little bit more mindful or actually just get hooked in.
Yeah, there's the cocoon on top.
No damage.
But yeah, they don't really have that much to follow up. You've got to tank the Elise.
Freeze was bot. Soren was clearing mid.
They lost their Baron too, so they won't get any extra stats from that. And they really didn't get that much out of it. Frederick, yeah, he had a bite taken out of his health bar, but really not that big of one. It's more of a nibble. And the Giants are threatening on the mid turret. They've got sidewave pressure in the bottom. Could build it quite easily in the top. This is a rough time to be a Wolf.
It really is. Really, truly is. The waves will get cleared out, though. That is the one thing we said earlier that the Wolves have in their bank, is as long as they don't get poked down too hard, they will just sit in front of these waves and constantly clear them out.
Could be in for one of those late games.
Could
if
be.
it comes to it.
I
However,
mean, we're on track.
Yeah, oh well, we've had quite a few. The Wolves at this point, yeah, they need to be able to get those flank engaged. They need to be able to bait Giants into a false sense of security. They do have some deep wards on the other side of the map from, you know, a bit of time ago. When the Baron does come up again, they can maybe look to make a play there, but they're not really playing with that same spark that we saw. The manic, got nothing to lose as yesterday. It seems like they're playing a little bit back because this poke is just oppressive.
Right, it truly is. And they're deep wards comparative to where the Wolves are right now on the map, but the problem is they're not useful wards for the Wolves right now. Now they know that the Giants aren't in the top side of their own jungle because they're sat in mid lane, poking in front of your base. This is one situation where Wolves actually, those wards don't benefit them all that much. All they know is, oh, red buff's up and they haven't taken it yet. Great, maybe they'll go for that in a minute or so. Maybe then they'll get the pressure from it. But the Giants feel very comfortable on this one, even playing from behind at this point, as the Wolves will just move around in a pack as a unit here. And that is certainly going to favor the Giants.
They keep poking it down. They've got a massive minion wave here. Lenny just to go for it. Freeze pops on the hunt. There is the taunt we were looking for. He's going to find Godfrey, however. In comes the Chains of Corruption. It's going to stop Lenny as he's taken down. Godfrey is pulled in, but you don't want to hook a cow in this situation. The Chaos Storm simply didn't do enough. They lose their Lenny, and they may lose their tower here. The backup wave. Giants Gaming looking to push in, keep themselves more relevant for the playoff race, and knock the Wolves out of the LCS.
You can see that Cassie's just trying to play for the Wolves, making a mistake. They're hiding behind the wall, trying to just let a hook loose. But the Giants, they know the situation they're in, and the Wolves recognize that they have to try and just force something. As you said, Taunt Flash only hit Godfred in that fight. And that is not the person that you really want to be taunting into a fight, because he's going to turn around and pulverize. The Baron goes over to Giants.
Mess with the bull, you get the horns. You mess with the Giants, you might just get squished. 36 minutes on the clock, and the gold has finally swung in Giants' favor, but it certainly has looked like their lead for a while now. A few more seconds before the Dragon respawns. Copenhagen Wolves could easily pick this one up with the back timers. However, they're going to be contending with a Baron buffed up Giants who are eyeballing that Nexus.
Yeah, it's a bit of a consolation prize for the Wolves here. What this does mean, though, is the Giants, if they don't manage to crack an inhibitor within the next 12 minutes now, it would have been 6, looking for that aspect of the Dragon if Giants had picked that up. If they don't crack it within 12 minutes, there's still a hope for the Wolves. And I mean, we were in a very similar situation. It is scary how similar parts of this game is to yesterday's game against Roccat. When it comes to the Wolves playing a little bit like they're behind when they had been ahead, if Wolves can somehow pull something magical again today, that would be an incredible feat. But
It'd
certainly
be a story for sure.
It'll be a tough one against this Giants lineup, because Giants have one game plan and it's just fire projectiles at you all day long.
Well, with the Wolves moving together, the flank potential is non-existent, and with the Giants feeling fairly confident that they can keep pushing in, it doesn't look like they will be punished for continuing to take these objectives. Starting to turn up the heat. They do not want to get jumped on, not their carries at least, but Godfred is very tanky, Frederick is very tanky, Werlib is starting to get pretty scary, and he's got the Banshees available to prevent a little bit of a quick catch. And they just continue to shuffle back and forth between this top and mid and try to push in. Werlib will get caught by Jiswika, but it doesn't matter at this point. There's really no follow-up. The Wolves are mortally afraid of going in on this one, and Maybe the waves are evaporating a little bit quickly.
Yeah, with this Baron buff.
Except the cannon minion.
Well, with this
what's
Baron
his
buff.
name? I know Kreppel likes the name.
No, it's only when they get the banner of command on them. But
Second
Civ is
name.
going.
We'll worry about that one later. Lenny looks to go in on this, but he's immediately pushed back. Frederick tosses out the big barrel to make that happen. Still continuing to try and push on this mid. They've got a fresh mini wave to do it. This may be where the inhibitor turret falls. It is happening. 38 minutes on the clock. Giants looking to end the Wolves in this game here. Koss desperately trying to land the hook on Audrey, but he is a pixel away and therefore safe. Inhibitor goes down, and now Giants look towards the top side. Slow push continues.
You can feel the build from the Copenhagen Wolves. At some point, they are just going to have to go all in, put everything on their hopes of taking down Giants with one last fight. I mean, they can still wait this out a little bit longer, but the Baron waves are difficult. That's Audrey hook!
Caught him! He is not quite down yet, however. Lenny is going to try to be safe, but he finally falls. They will pick up Frederick, but Audrey just makes it out of danger. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of Giants as Pepinero picks up Koss on the backside. Soren desperately trying to save the tower here as Freeze doing the same with the boomerang blade. Werlib looks to jump on him. Godfred limping a little bit from that last fight, but Soren is the one who takes a big arrow. That was incredibly close. And we're back to it.
Baron buff has run out for the Giants right at the end of that fight, so they had to back away from that situation, and Wolves even get themselves a tower the opposite side of the map. But that is the one mistake that can hold the Copenhagen Wolves in this game, is just one of the carries, Audrey or Pepinero, if they get caught out by this very heavy single target catch composition from the Copenhagen Wolves, things can still stay in the LCS. The Copenhagen Wolves could still stay in the LCS if that happens, but it is a long shot for that to happen repeatedly.
Well, that does two things right now for the Copenhagen Wolves. For one, that's got to inspire some confidence because they know that they can still force Giants into a catchable situation. That hook that Koss was able to pull off could have resulted in something absolutely massive. As it was, they still lost the trade, but they managed to save their turret. They managed to chase Giants off. The other thing it does, though, is maybe make Giants rethink this pushing strategy and wait it out a little while longer, so we still could be in for a very long one. Copenhagen Wolves, though, look at this Fnatic rush they've got going.
It's not going to work, because look at how, I said about this earlier, look how many times that's clipped them, but it's not too much. But look at how much Giants have to check these pushes. Teleport is coming in way from behind from Willid. He has a lot of damage right now.
Yeah, Lenny, they were split just a little bit. Koss is the one who took the Chains of Corruption, and he's popped just like that. Werlib goes around the back, but he's surrounded by Wolves, and he gets shut down. That's a 1-for-1 support for top laner. That might actually work out to Wolves' favor, but Shook is on his own. He has to get the Chilling Smite down, try to dodge away from the barrels. He's got to repel. He will use it. However, he's caught and squished by the rest of Giants. Meanwhile, super minions are still streaming into the base, and the 3 remaining Wolves have to get back to push them away. The Giants marching down the top lane.
Turnabout is fair play. Giants are just stopping the recalls at this point. The Nexus Tower does not quite fall yet in favor of the Giants, but even with the flank and Willip getting blown up, the Wolves just cannot stand in front of the Giants when Audrey and Pepinero are just letting loose. The Giants are under attack.
They do, however, manage to secure the tower, and they even keep Frederick alive by some miracle. Whew. And they still are staying alive, but it is by a slim thread here. These Wolves, they are tenacious.
They certainly are. At this point, Copenhagen Wolves have got a big decision to make. Do they commit to a Baron? Do they commit to a Dragon? And where do the Giants go from that? Because it's going to be roughly 30 seconds apart. So Copenhagen Wolves are likely to only get one. Ooh, Audrey's recall gets stopped. This might open up the Dragon here for the Wolves. Audrey not being available is a big part of this poke team fight composition.
You got Lenny pushing on the top side. He's on clear duty, but now he's able to come in and look for Audrey. In he goes. That's a quick flash from him. However, back still stopped. We've got 40 seconds on this Baron. It's still a few before Godfred will come back up. This is still very dangerous for the Wolves, but they managed to push the super minions out of their mid lane. Frederick, however, is on guard duty himself. Dragons just spawned. Still got another half minute on that Baron, and I don't think the Wolves are going to take it here.
Wolves just used a lot. The one thing that is going to help them from that is the flash now being down from Audrey. If he does get hooked in, he does get locked down without the Arcane Shift available, will turn into a massive kill in the middle of a fight, if that happens. But that is going to be on Adri's shoulders to keep himself alive here right now. And he should be putting enough distance between himself and Shook to stay alive in these fights. He has the Iceborne Gauntlet. All he has to do is land 1 Q on people, and Peppy kind of takes over as well.
Peppy certainly has been doing quite a lot of work here, but it's really just the combination of the Giants knowing their positioning exceptionally well, being able to keep pushing the Wolves back, but then still a couple of these mistakes, and you get caught by a stray hook. It's hard to predict those, though. Kas has been absolutely fantastic on that particular skill.
Yes, if there's one thing to keep you in a game at this point, catching somebody out is going to be the one. Size does matter when it comes to the hitbox that you're hitting with a hook. So certainly, Adri seems a little bit nimble, though. Catching Ezreal is a little tricky.
Well, and you were right about that call on the Iceborne Gauntlet build. It certainly helps him to slow down targets and mean that he can easily more true shot them, hit them with the Q. Pepinero can do the same thing with his piercing arrow. The Giants have a bit of lockdown on their own. I mean, you get too close to a rise, you're going to check into a room prison.
Yeah.
And speaking of Werlick, he's on the top side clearing away the waves. This will be the Wolves' chance to fight. There is no teleport available for the top laner, but do they know that? They have
for a little bit. It seems like they do. Freeze has popped his ultimate. Doesn't spell shield the first Q.
But they back away quick.
No.
A lot of mobility there. Remember, they're sitting on 4 dragons now. They will pick that one up.
Yeah.
It includes the mobility buff. And they will be able to get away, so they move quite fast for their size.
At that point, Freeze knows he has to spell shield the ult coming from Peppy. So it means he has to eat the slow from the Iceborne Gauntlet and still try and catch up. He's obviously not the one with the crowd control, and Godfrey breaks the chains and keeps himself alive. Wolves did have vision control from that crab, but it has now died. Giants run it. Teleport coming in from Lenny from the top side. Banshee's Veils on Werlib. Still not being popped. Look at the health on Wolves. They're getting shredded.
Yeah, Kas is going down, but it's Godfrey who's going very low. Lenny, meanwhile, in the back trying to tank up 3 members. All the while, Godfrey is down, so is Kas. But finally, Lenny will fall as there was no backup from the rest of the Wolves. And Soren gets picked off by Werlib, who goes a-hunting through the jungle. Audrey will squish the spider. Freeze is the last man standing, and he's not even in the base. Giants are eyeballing the win here.
The flank play from Lenny looked to be so good. He got onto both Adri and Pepinero in that fight, but the damage follow-up just wasn't there from any of the Copenhagen Wolves. And Giants, they've played this game very slowly, but they're going to get this win here. They're pushing for the Nexus Towers.
They have not got too much else to contend with, just waiting until the minion waves arrive to back them up. Freeze goes solo, hunting, can't quite find Werlib on the back of the boomerang. He does, but it's not going to be nearly enough. 46 minutes into the game, Giants complete the ace, will push themselves forward in the playoff race, and they have knocked the Copenhagen Wolves out of the LCS.